Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. Here is my prediction and my reasons why. I'm Nicholas Zarrillo, director and producer of a real-life underdog story, out now on Amazon Prime and Tubi. My official prediction is gonna have to wait because this fight is gonna be so close that I had to call upon my good friend, boxing coach and expert, Coach JT.
Yes, sir.
Let him know who you are.
Coach JT, head coach of Technique Boxing. You might have seen me around the globe. Trust me, you will see if you haven't seen me.
We are here at Technique Boxing, and he's gonna show me the ropes and hopefully give me some better insight on who is gonna win this fight and how. Jake Paul's keys to victory. One technique that I think Jake Paul can use is to punch when Nate Diaz is punching. For example, when he fought Anderson Silva, he landed a right hand at the same time that Anderson Silva threw his right hand. When he connected, he got the knockdown. Let's show you guys how it happened. Threw at the same time, he landed that knockdown, which eventually won him the fight because it gave him the rounds on it.
Oh, yeah.
So the key takeaway there is to punch while Nate Diaz is punching.
Jake has to be a perfect counterpuncher to get Nate off him, basically.
I've noticed from watching a lot of the Nate Diaz fights that he's very heavy on the front foot. What can Jake Paul do to take advantage of this?
Nate is a straightforward fighter. Pretty simple. He throws a lead hook, comes with a straight left. If you look at him, he's in a southpaw position. He likes a lot of these punches where he comes with the 3 and he wants to stab the 2. That's the biggest thing. What Jake has to do is get that pull back on that 2. So Nate will lead with the hook. When Jake pulls back, boom, that way he can counter with the 2. Immediately land, because when he comes back, boom, he can touch him there. We all know Nate's chin suspect, so, you know.
That is true.
That's the biggest thing with this fight, you know what I mean? With Nate being able to pressure, that gives him the advantage. But the power from Jake, that gives him more of the advantage because the power that he brings behind his punches, he lands and he touches him, is night-night.
Nate Diaz gets hit with the right hand way too easily. The difference here is that when Jake Paul throws a punch, he really commits to it. He commits to his power because he believes in his power. What can Jake Paul do to make that right hand land a little bit more efficiently for him?
You got to establish the jab. I mean, just like any boxer, you got to automatically come with the jab, touch him with the jab, keep Nate at distance. Once Nate gets past that jab, just find that 2. Me personally, I would shoot for the chest because if Nate does sit down like he will sit down, run right into it. So if he's here, standing here, and he comes in, when he sits down, boom, he's going to get touched. But the jab got to be out in front of him. So use the jab. When Nate comes over, he tries to throw that 2. Jake needs to be there before it. Boom, touch. He ends up on the ground, gets an 8 count, he gets back up. Jake needs to jump on him again, immediately right after that.
Okay. And for the right hand that he throws, do you think he should take the overhand off of it and keep it more straight, or should he?
It has to be tight. It has to be tight. He got to work on his game. The main thing about this is a boxing match, not an MMA match. So with Jake staying tight and throwing that straight down the pipe, Nate is not going to expect that. He's going to expect the looping punch, the overhands, or anything, you know, saying one of those things. Against a southpaw, you need a 3-2 or a 2-3, and Jake has a hell of a 2. So with him slapping that 2 down the pipe, he needs to follow up with the 3 and then set back up that 2 just in case he missed to finish off the shot.
So another good technique for Jake to use to win this fight is to start with the jab and don't show the power to the later rounds. Almost like a Lennox Lewis. Just jab him for the first couple rounds and then surprise him with the power.
Of course, you're setting him up. You want to set him up. You want to continue to use that, make him think that he's not going to throw it. And then when he finally see it, surprise, boom, touch him.
Boom. Don't let him get used to that power too early on, right?
Exactly, because you don't want to wear himself out either. You know, because like you said, Jake does commit to the right hand. Mm-hmm. If he constantly uses his power over and over and over again, he might be exhausted later in the rounds. Nate can last. We know that.
We do know that.
So if he can last in the rounds, even though it's like maybe a 6 to 8 round fight, me personally, I think it's not going to go past the 6th round. But you know, it's possible.
All right. We don't know his prediction yet. Don't give it up yet. We're gonna wait for that for later on. Another thing I noticed about Nate Diaz's style is that he often will put his guard up on his forehead and walk straight at his opponent with his elbows flared. How could Jake take advantage of this?
Body shots. Key point. MMA fighters really don't throw body shots because they worry about the knees or the takedown, right? So now, in this case, if he does this, he's just basically telling any opponent, I don't respect your punches. I'm going to walk you down, I'm going to press you at this point, because a lot of fighters don't go to the body. If he does go to the body in an MMA fight, what happens? The knee can come. If he goes, boom, the knee stabs. So nobody's really throwing the body shots. Only a select few guys that I got the speed to get in and out. Now, him coming in like this right here, me as Jake Paul, boom. Or if I'm saying it like this right here, if you switch southpaw, boom. So let's say I'm Jake and you're Nate, you're walking in towards me, boom, touching the jab upstairs and stabbing to the solar plex. If I keep touching that solar plex, with a boxing match, after a while, we start breaking those walls down. Break those walls down, make it easy for me to get those real organs that I want to get to.
There you go. And then, because Nate Diaz can take a good punch, he can take a good shot, if he's able to walk through that first shot to the solar plexus, what should Jake do after landing that?
Oh, if I'm here, boom, I'm coming back with the hook up top. I'm just going to turn you, and I'm ripping right back down to that solar plex shot. Think about boxing. After a while, these shots take effect. Got it? MMA, 1 or 2 shots, you're down. 3 shots, 4 shots, yeah, you might be hurt, wobbly. In a boxing match, you can go a little bit more. You can take more impact on these shots. Got it? And Jake has been there, done that. Nate hasn't. Nate's only done that in sparring. So this is going to be the advantage for Jake to take over.
Attack the body, attack it at will.
Exactly.
Right?
Slow your opponent down because Nate, we know, has endurance. He can work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you got to slow Nate down. So
That's
you slow
true.
Nate down with body shots.
Yeah. And another thing I noticed about Jake Paul, when he does go to the body, he'll jab to the body once.
Yes.
Right? And then he resets.
Yes.
JT saying, stay in there and keep attacking that body. Right?
Yes. Take your time. I mean, in the beginning, take your time. Boom, touch him, get in and out. Because Jake has, his experience level is getting higher and higher. He's looking phenomenal. So just continue that. Don't switch your game now at this point. Stay the course.
Another technique that Jake should use, or shouldn't use, is overthrowing his power punches. He throws away too much energy doing that because we all seen in his last fights, he misses a lot of power punches. You always see him missing by a mile, basically. What should he do to avoid missing this much?
I mean, to me, it's this right here. If I'm Jake Paul and I throw my right hand and I absolutely miss, let's say you step back and I miss, he need to learn how to start working these angles. So if he shoots, get off the line and get off that angle. Got it? Because instead of staying directly in front of your opponent, being able to be hit, if I change positions, if I shoot that shot and I overthrow it, I change angles, boom, you might throw a punch there. I can rip and rip from here. The angle's going to be the biggest thing because a lot of fighters are straight forward and back. You got what I'm saying? So the main thing is he has to, if he does overthrow and miss, if he does miss, boom, angle out, and then shoot a right hand again at a different angle.
So should he sort of pre-plan on the miss before he throws a punch?
Not necessarily. It's just if
he
happens.
misses.
If you miss,
Okay.
angle off, shoot another straight right. Now remember, this is the biggest thing in this. You're fighting a southpaw versus orthodox. So now, if I miss here, boom, him sidestepping to the left, boom, will set me up to get hit with with Nate's left. So that's the biggest thing in this. So if he does miss, boom, he needs to angle hard. He got to angle hard to get past that hook. That might throw, because Nate loves the hook.
Yeah, and he'll throw like 4 or 5 shots.
He will slap that hook at him, and then again, it's 4 or 5 punches at a time. You know, they might not have no steam on them, but they're consistent.
That's true. And pretty accurate too.
Yeah.
Nate Diaz's keys to victory. So Nate Diaz, one of the techniques that he loves to use is he has a very tricky 1-2 combination punch. We've seen him use it against Leon Edwards, we've seen him use it against Conor McGregor, and we've seen him use it against Tony Ferguson. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a slap hook. So to me, the 1-2 that you're talking about, he throws this, boom, but then he'll go whop and then slap the hook at top, boom. That way he sits you down to throw that 2. Boom. But again, remember, he's just leaning in like this right here. That's why you said he's front heavy.
Yeah.
So he'll be here, boom, flap, and then come over top, but he's leaning over, so it's a little bit, the power is not there. MMA gloves, yeah, the power is going to be there. Boxing gloves, it's not going to be there.
Okay. So he's setting him up.
He's setting him up nicely, but so
And then boom, boom.
Exactly. He's going to touch. That's the main thing that Nate's going to do in this fight. He's going to touch him a lot.
The technique that Nate Diaz should use or shouldn't use is throwing any lazy jabs.
Facts.
Because Jake Paul's biggest punch is his overhand right hand. And if he throws a lazy jab,
He's going to get caught with it.
let's show him what happens.
Yeah.
I'm Jake Paul.
So if I'm Nate and he's like this right here, boom, Jake Paul's going to come slap over top, boom, and touch him straight. Bomb. It's easy for that. But yes, exactly. Main thing is that he slips off the line, he's going to drop him from that position. So,
No lazy punches.
None.
No lazy punches.
and commit. You have to commit to these punches.
Because of the gloves, they're not gonna hurt as much.
Exactly.
The 8-ounce gloves, they're not gonna hurt as much as the what, 2 ounces or 4
I
ounces?
think they're using 10 ounces on this fight.
10 ounces. Okay, well,
Yeah.
the 10-ounce gloves
Yeah.
versus the MMA gloves, which
The
is
4
like
ounces.
4 ounces.
Yes.
So that they're not going to be able to hurt as much, not going to have as much sting.
Exactly.
So pressure, pressure, pressure. Everyone and their mother is saying that Nate Diaz should use pressure. What do you think about this strategy? What if Nate Diaz holds off on the pressure into the later rounds and wait till Jake Paul's power cools off a little bit?
No, I don't think so. I think he needs to, out the gate, jump on Jake Paul. He has to make Jake Paul the most uncomfortable in the ring. You got it? Because remember, Nate is a dog. He can be in there all day long, right?
Yeah.
Jake Paul slows down later in the rounds.
Yes.
Every fight that you've watched Jake Paul do, he is a slower fighter and he's less powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So me, if I pressure you early, if I pressure you, I'm on top of you nonstop. That
on the back
second round,
foot.
yes, that second round, you are already tired. Now you're more exhausted than you ever been. You know what I'm saying? So now that's the key to me for Jake to win. For Nate to win this fight. Pressure.
Pressure.
Be on him, throw punches, touch his body, make it ugly. Boxing don't have to be pretty. Some fights have to be ugly fights. And I think Nate needs to make this an ugly fight.
So should he keep him backing up?
Backing up against him, clinching, shoulder bumps, touching the body, touching the head, pushing him around, just dog him. He has to be that dog in this fight.
Okay. And what do you think about Nate Diaz just standing in front of Jake Paul and trying to play that?
No, that's a bad move because we all know Jake does have power. Nate Dogg stands directly in front of Nate. He takes a huge opportunity to get touched with that right hand. Got it? Because even though, not saying that Nate is not, I'm sorry, Jake does, it's the Nate and the Jake. it's the main thing is like, you don't want to be right here with Jake. You don't.
Yeah.
You want to be kind of in and out or all up against him. You got it? You don't want to be in that mid-range. If you look at what happened to Woodley. You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he stood right in front of him. You stood right in front of him, waiting for that opportunity. Boom. You get clipped.
Yeah. Younger lion sometimes gets there first, right?
You gotta be up. You gotta be up and close and personal. Even when you look at Anderson Silva, when he started putting the combinations together, Jake had no clue what to do.
Yeah.
And that's the advantage that Nate's gonna have. He has to punch, angle, pop, stay up against him, shoulder bump, put pressure on him, clench him, make it ugly. Don't make this a pretty fight. You give it a pretty fight, Jake gonna knock him out.
I noticed one thing, that Jake Paul does not handle long combinations well at all. If you watch some of his fights, he'll often take his eyes off his opponent when they start throwing combinations at him. How can Nate Diaz take advantage of this bad tendency?
Again, consistency, all over him, boom, 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 touch, angles, bomb, moving, boom, getting up on his shoulder, bumping him, boom, mushing his head down. He has to do that because Jake Paul has no clue what is going to happen, what to do after that point. He's going to try to create space. When he creates space, he's going to move out of there. When he moves out of there, he's dragging his legs. The more he drags his legs, when Nate keep jumping on top of him, that's what's going to tire him out. If you tire him out early, it might be an early night for Jake.
Might be. We didn't get to the predictions yet. Might be.
That is true. It might be.
Here's a trick that a lot of people, casuals, they don't know about boxing, that feints can actually wear your opponent out. Tell us something about that.
Yeah, feints play a heavy role because you want to see, are they looking for a counter shot? Are they looking for a reaction? So if I'm here and I'm Nate, I might flinch to see how he reacts, to see what he's looking for. A lot of guys that are pulled back, they're looking for a pullback counter too. Got it? Or a check hook, pulling away from me. You got it? So if I'm here, boom, if I throw the jab and feint, I want to see how he reacts and see what he's looking for. Maybe if I feint the inside, see you pulling back there, I might be able to feint and then stab because I know you're at the distance. You know, so feints does play a heavy role in this, I think. But the question is, will he feint? Because that style in MMA is not a feinting style. It's a go get what you want style, you know? So he has to utilize the feints in this fight big time.
I did notice in the Tommy Fury fight that one of his big reactions that Jake Paul makes from the feint is he'll dip back and down.
Yes.
How does Nate Diaz take advantage of this?
Angles. So what he can do is he feints, boom, and if Jake does sit down from this position, he can shoot the uppercut. If you remember the fight with Erickson Lubin and Southpaw versus Charlo, same thing. Lubin sat down, boom, Charlo reacted, boom, caught him with the uppercut. First round knockout. You know, it's a punch that you don't see coming. So he can definitely use that in this fight.
And he's going to see he's not going to see a lot of punches coming from the long combinations because we all seen that Jake Paul takes his eyes off his opponent
Yes,
a lot.
he does. Very much.
When they start throwing the 3-4 punches, his eyes are not even looking. You can
Yeah.
play it back in slow motion to see him. When he'll throw like a protective jab.
Yeah.
His eyes aren't even looking.
Yeah, he's trying to get away at this point.
Now remember what I said about Jake, that he likes to really commit to his power. Now this can also be a double-edged blade here, because he overcommits. Now Jake Paul loves to throw the big right hand a lot. How can Nate Diaz take advantage of him overcommitting?
Overcommitting, smother the punches that's in the inside. If I'm here, stay tight, boom, touch from that body shot and rip the top.
So before it even gets to him.
Exactly. Now remember, he does throw a lot of straight shots too as well. He might commit to that later on in the rounds, but if he throws that straight and he runs right into it, he might get touched there. So me as Nate, I'm stepping with the jab. When he throws the 2, I'm smothering the 2, boom, the counter shot to rip as much punches as I possibly can. He can't come in there with the guard like this right here though.
No.
He has to come in with the guard tight.
Okay.
Got it? So that's one of the biggest things in this fight. He can't do this. You know? And if you're trying to get into his head, then yes, he can do it.
While we're on that, a technique that I see when Nate Diaz does that,
Yeah.
what if Jake Paul brings in a little bit of Roy Jones Jr. with the lead uppercut?
Boom, yes, it's possible. And then he follow up with the 2.
Boom, boom.
Yes, you got to put them together quick. Jake Paul is pretty quick. For his size,
quick,
he's pretty
yeah.
fast. And he puts his power together. So he might lead, but he'll sit down in that right hand, boom, and throw as hard as he can. So at this position, Nate has to get in there. If he's like this right here, he throws the jab. If the jab lands, boom, he has to close up quick because that right hand is following.
We also know that Jake Paul loves to overcommit on that big left hook.
Yes.
What can Nate Diaz do to take advantage of that?
Now with the size of Jake throwing that hook, Nate cannot catch these punches because it's going to throw him over. Got it? Even with Jake overcommitting. What Nate has to do is keep that distance because he is going to be longer. He's going to be here. He makes him commit. Boom, pulls back, cracks, bam. Got it? He has to almost think that he's going to come in, pull, and then stab the 2, and then keep going with the punches behind him.
Going, boom, boom,
Yep.
boom, boom.
He's either going to be that 6 or that 2 coming over top.
He's going to turtle up. So.
Yeah, if he turtles up, boom, and he sits down, again, we're going to go right back to that 6.
Right. Yep, that uppercut,
Yep,
right?
going right back to that uppercut.
Those are some great strategies that both fighters can use. Before we end, JT, what else you got? What other techniques you think that pop to mind?
Pressure. Let's talk about Nate. Nate winning the fight. Pressure, consistency. Stay glued to him. Don't give him no breathing space. Make it a grappling match almost, where you can just tie up a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? So those are the strands. Those are what I think that Nate should do. Jake has to stay the distance. Has to give him the power. Have to keep him at bay. Has to drag him deep in the sea and drown him. Got it? Put him in the boxing ring. That's what he's going to be in. So you got to make sure that Nate doesn't believe that he's in the cage no more. No, you're in the boxing ring, and this is legit. This is legit boxing. So he has to box him, outbox him, be classy. Boom. Don't get into a tug of war with him. Make him miss. Boom. Show him what a boxer does best.
Here's my official prediction, and here are my reasons why I made this prediction. We all know that Jake Paul already knocked out Tyron Woodley. In my opinion, now this is just my opinion, but I think that Tyron Woodley would have an easy matchup against Nate Diaz. What do you think about that?
In a boxing match, yes. Actually, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it'll be a great fight between the two of them because they're both coming from the background of MMA. But I think Tyrone definitely does have the better hands, better power, more consistent. Yeah.
Incredible power.
Yes.
Jake Paul also scored a knockdown on the greatest martial artist of all time, in my opinion, Anderson Silva. And also, in my opinion, Anderson Silva would beat Nate Diaz if they had a boxing match because he already beat Chavez and he went the distance with Adesanya, who's much bigger than both of them.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, me personally, I think Anderson took it easy on Jake because if he would have boxed him like he did Chavez, it would have been an easy streak. Anderson Silva has hands. We all know that. I mean, he is one of the greats for sure. If you take Anderson Silva in his prime, he beats them all. No questions asked.
No question.
Yeah, and Woodley outside of his prime, Anderson outside of his prime. Yes, Anderson Silva beats him. He beats Jake. He beats them all.
A big factor in this fight is Jake Paul is a big dude.
Yes.
All right, he's going to come weighing in at 210, maybe 215 pounds, depending on how much he rehydrates.
Mm-hmm.
Nate Diaz never fought at 185 pounds. He might come in at, what, 190?
Depends. I mean, I think Nate understood the fact that he's going to be the smaller guy in this fight, so he had to build a little bit of muscle. If you look at his last network video, he does look like he done gained a little bit of size, and he look like he's taking it serious. No more cigarettes in the ring. You know, he's actually doing what he's supposed to do. So he might come in at maybe 200, maybe 205, but Jake is definitely going to come in at least 215.
Another reason I'm giving Jake the edge, because Nate Diaz is more susceptible to the big right hand, as we seen when he fought Jorge Masvidal. He got hit with it a lot and early.
Yes. As a pure boxer, we understand the fact that as a southpaw, we want to stay on the outside of that front foot. MMA is more of the grabbing the leg, knees. You got a lot of things to worry about.
Yeah.
Now in this position right here, what Nate needs to do is stay on the outside. That way he can stab that 2 down the pipe. Got it? A pure boxer. If a right hander throws a right hand, it's easy for us to sidestep, boom, shoot it straight, or step off the outside of the line and shoot it straight as well. Same thing vice versa, slipping in the inside, shooting the uppercut and shooting it straight as well. Now what Nate needs to do is stay away from the right hand. That is one of the biggest things in this fight. If he does overload and throws at the right hand, he needs to sit down and he can rip here, boom, or straight left. But he has to step on the outside to shoot that shot. So he from prior experience, Nate, step off the line and get out the way.
Another reason why I think Jake Paul has the edge on this one is because Nate Diaz is known for his 50% power punch and volume that he just keeps throwing. Is that going to have the same effect with the 10-ounce gloves as it does with the 4-ounce MMA gloves? We don't know, but we will know on Saturday.
We soon find out.
I think that if Nate Diaz underestimates Jake Paul, even the slightest, that he's going to end up just like Ben Askren, just like Tyron Woodley. So my official prediction is this. I think we're going to see a match similar to the first Tyron Woodley fight, where Jake Paul does a lot of boxing, moving around, throws a quick couple combinations and continues to move around like he doesn't really want to fight. And I think he's going to edge out a close decision that's going to, people are going to, they're going to boo at it. Yeah. But I think that's what's going to happen. What do you have to add to that? And you don't have to go right for your prediction. You can give them a little more if you want.
I mean, my thing is, it might be boring in the beginning because they're going to try to fill each other out. Obviously, Nate is a legend. Jake understands that. I don't think Jake is taking anything away from Nate. Me personally, I think Jake is a little worried because of the consistency, because he can take a punch, because of these things. But he shouldn't have to worry. He should rely on his power and boxing skills. That should make the difference. Whether they go to distance or whether they go close early night. I think Jake comes out on top.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to distance. I don't think Nate is going to be able to handle the power.
You think he's going to knock him out?
I think he's going to knock him out. Reason is because he's been in wars. He's been in a lot
of miles on the engine.
A lot of miles on the engine. And a couple hits to that engine, it always falls.
Especially at this weight class,
At this weight class, in a boxing ring, taking that much damage over and over and over and over. It wears on you after a while. And Jake's only been in the game for so long. So he doesn't have that much wear and tear. And he's smart. He knows how to tie up. Mm-hmm. He knows how to clinch, when to clinch. He's becoming a great fighter. He's becoming a really good boxer in this game.
He is.
And it's his stage. People got to remember that. This is Jake's stage. This is not Nate's stage. This is Jake's stage. He runs the show. And as a person that runs the show, when the boss walks into his own spot, he don't got to say nothing. He knows what it is. Yeah. And Jake knows what it is when he walks in there. He's going to hold his ring down. He's going to hold his name down. He's going to beat Nate Diaz. And I say it ain't going the distance.
There you have it. Technique boxing.
All day.
Coach JT. Director, producer of A Real Life Underdog Story. Out now. Amazon Prime Video, starring myself and Platinum Mike Perry. Did you see that? Do you know that was him right there?
Yeah, you know him as head coach, right?
And he's the head coach right here, right? We got a conflict of interest going on right here. But there you have it. You got my opinion and you got Coach JT's opinion. Is both for Jake Paul. Who would have thought? And you know what? I didn't even know that was my prediction until we got in here and started talking about it. And it just formulated. Unbelievable. Wow, two people. Boom. You see it. You know, we're not telling you to bet, but if you had to bet, you know where to bet.
And don't say we didn't tell you so.
Right?